What up guys, Brinks here, and Smoke needs our help. So with this upcoming patch, at least based on Ed Boon's tweets, it's looking like Smoke is going to be an uncontested bottom 3 character, while all his low tier peers get some, hopefully, much needed buffs. And he's already not great right now. He's sort of a pressure focused anti-zoner with very flawed anti-zoning moves. Very exploitable mix. Fake pressure options. And bad defensive options. But oh no, he can go invisible. Okay, sure, that's kinda bullshit, but he generally has to get in and open you up to do that in the first place. And he's obviously not great at either of those things. I could go through half his moveset with buff ideas, and I may do that in a future video. But for now, I'm going to go over 3 changes that I think would make Smoke a more functional character while preserving his weaknesses in counterplay, and more importantly, let him actually work as the mix-heavy anti-zoner he was clearly designed to be. Buff number 1. His Vicious Vapors cancel. So, how many times have you seen this?
Stop. Stop now. Stop!
Yes, you can disintegrate your hands and controller, and your opponent can press one button to stop you completely. It's the equivalent of that scene from Raiders of the Lost Ark where the dude spins his sword around trying to be intimidating and Indy just rolls his eyes and shoots him. So, let's say you're Smoke in this situation. You know your opponent is just going to mash down one to stop you from your crazy turbo infinity pressure that should definitely cost a bar to do. Well then, you have essentially 3 not great options solo. You hold block, so you can punish their down one with yours and get some advantage, but probably loop back to the same problem until they just start grabbing you after the cancel, and you die. You can mash armor after your cancel, and if they poke, then they'll trigger the armor, but they'll still be able to block, and you'll still die. But at least if they don't mash and just hold block, they won't trigger your armor, and you get to be invisible for a few frames before they react and anti-air you, and you die. And finally, you can read their poke by not canceling vapors, and doing a frightening 7% of their health, in a ballsy read that if they don't mash and just block, then you fucking die. So the only thing that I think needs to change about this interaction is Smoke needs a better way to be able to call out pokes during this pressure. And this is easy to solve by giving him his classic Smoke Away move. This can be a new special or just a way to cancel vapors with a backdash. Either way, Smoke would be able to call out pokes by canceling backward, and then with punishing said poke with like back 2 or something. There'd still obviously be the counterplay of the opponent reading this and up blocking your back 2, but it would give Smoke the ability to actually be somewhat tricky and to condition certain options during his offense without it being too strong or unfair or high risk, low reward as it is now. Also, both Ermac and Rain have similar function and cancel mind games like this, and it would be neat for Smoke to have access to similar options with his vapor cancels. Buff number 2. This is a kind of 2-part change that would just shore up some of Smoke's frame data on a couple of his strings, and give him options for better mind games from his best string. So for part 1 of this, If forward 1 isn't allowed to be a mid, then forward 1-2 and 1-1 should be gapless. I don't think this is unreasonable, as both moves start high, but if the launching, safe armor spamming abominations named Tanya and Kung Lao are allowed to exist, then I feel like every character's 2 fastest strings should have no gaps for at least the first 2 hits. If you disagree, then please comment below if you've always liked eating paint, or if you discovered that after picking up Tanya or Lao. For part 2, we've got to do something about Smoke's best string, his low overhead forward 3-2. Currently, it has a fatal flaw where you can up-block the second hit and kill him. This can technically be done on reaction, and the opponent does not have to make a read to do it, or really risk much by going for the up-block anyways. So, I believe we should have a way to more effectively bait and punish this up-block. Currently, all we can do solo is stagger or cancel forward 3, both of which give up your turn if the opponent just blocks, which there is no actual risk of them doing against this string because there's no actual mix to it. I've seen many people ask for this up-block gap to be removed, but I actually enjoy the mind game here, as it's really cool when characters can enforce multi-layered mind games that are more than just overhead low mix or strike throw mix. So to fix this situation while keeping the counterplay but adding a better option for Smoke to play around it, I would give Smoke a Kara cancel from the second hit of the string, which means he could cancel the animation before the overhead hits into a throw, like Rain can with his overhead. What this does is introduce a meaningful risk for the opponent to go for an up block, which they now have to make a read for, and it lets Smoke condition the opponent into blocking the forward 3-2 or forward 3, which lets him then loop back into the new cancel pressure we went over a few minutes ago. The best part is this change more fairly balances the risk-reward ratio for all of the options while favoring Smoke more since it is offense, but it doesn't just remove the counterplay either. So if the opponent doesn't want to risk an up block being throw punished, the most they have to fear is just a normal throw, which they can also still make a read on if they want to take that risk and duck it, which obviously then opens them up to Smoke full comboing them with forward 3-2. Buff number 3, the final change I think Smoke needs, since I'm trying to limit this to only 3 for this video, is something to actually improve his anti-zoning. I don't think getting in should be free for Smoke, since I think I would keep the low teleport the same, where it's mainly just for combos, but I would change Vapors, so that you can stop moving at any point during the move, and don't need to travel the entire distance before coming out of it. If we could backdash cancel the move, as I said earlier in the video, then that could fix this problem. You just input Vapors, and then backdash as you get to the opponent or where you want to stop, and Smoke would smoke away a few feet before stopping. It would make our ability to get around zoning a little stronger and less committal, while still being something the opponent could play around. So that wraps up the, unfortunately, only 3 changes that I would make to Smoke to make him a more functional character without just removing his weaknesses. He'd still have a shit armor move with mediocre pokes, fairly short range moves other than back 2, which can be counter hit or up blocked fairly easily, and solid but not crazy damage. I would even accept a nerf of some kind to his invisibility, because I would much rather Smoke not have to rely so heavily on invisibility gimmicks, which is how he is right now. But that's going to do it for this video. If you love or hate these proposed buffs, or have any of your own, I would love to discuss all of it in the comments below. If you made it this far, subscribing and or liking the video is much appreciated and goes a long way. It would be really sick to hit 1,000 subs within my first year of making content, which will be September. Regardless, if you made it this far, you're fucking awesome, and I super appreciate you. I have a lot of content planned for Takeda and the patch next week after I finish the Scorpion cameo class, so stay tuned for that. Otherwise, buff Smoke, and thank you for watching. Later.